Hey everybody, it's James Veigli here. Welcome to another episode of the MBA podcast, and it's Christmas Day. How about that? We're releasing an episode on Christmas Day, and let's be completely upfront, Ash. It's not really Christmas Day when we're recording it. It's a little bit earlier than that, but hey, it's going out Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas to you, Ash, and Merry Christmas to our listeners.
I've done my best to grow out my Santa beard, James, and everybody, but it's not quite at Santa level just yet. But yeah, Merry Christmas, James, and Merry Christmas, everybody. When this episode drops, it'll be Christmas Day, and hope everyone's had a fabulous year and has some time off and time with the family and to reflect on the year that's been and to start to think about the year that's coming. So maybe we should do that too, hey, James?
I reckon that's a good idea. This is our last episode for 2023, and it is Christmas Day. So let's have a think back to across the last 12 months that have been. And I guess before we get into that, Ash, I want to talk about something important. We're not going to talk about next year or predictions just yet. We'll do that next week. We hear this a lot at this time of year, that time to reset, spend time with friends and family, like just slow down and take some time to yourself. And again, I think it's easy to know that and intellectualize that. And a lot of people do that naturally, holiday time. But I think it is important to still spend the first few minutes of this episode talking about the importance of actually reflecting back on your year and celebrating your wins and progress and taking time off. So we're going to check back on the year in a moment, but I want to challenge our listeners, like straight up. We won't leave it at the end of the episode. We'll do it at the start. I want to challenge everybody, like, do it today. Like, think, hang on, we're almost at the end of the year. Let's sit for 5 minutes by yourself and like think back across the year and remember how it was at the start of the year and think, what did you get done this year? Like, what did you achieve? What were the ups? What were the downs? What can you be excited about having done this year? Like, actually reflect back on it. And how can you celebrate the progress that you made? How can you reward yourself and be excited about taking some time and slowing down and giving yourself the reward that you deserve after another great year? Doesn't matter if the year was your best year or your worst year, it was still a year and you put in a lot of work and effort. So think back and take some time to slow down, reflect on that, and celebrate with yourself. How do you think, why do you think that's so important, Ash, specifically at this time of year before we even think about and start to plan about making next year the biggest yet and all that sort of jazz?
Well, I guess it fits under the broad banner of gratitude and mindset in many ways. One of the things I want to add to what you said, James, because I think a lot of people, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this and maybe our listeners too, when we talk about reflecting on the year and celebrating successes, what do we tend to think of? We suddenly start thinking, well, what have I achieved? What's a positive? Where have I progressed or achieved something I said I was going to achieve? And I think that's important, but I also think that it can shield us from great opportunities to learn. So one of the things I would encourage everybody to do as well is to celebrate your fails, celebrate your mistakes, celebrate, events that weren't necessarily desirable, because I think this fits into one of my really strong recommendations and personal beliefs is that, we should think of stressful events, fails, mistakes as performance enhancing, not debilitating. So I think when it comes to celebrating, it's very important to reflect on everything, not just cherry picking a couple of wins, like I won an award or I broke a record, or celebrate where things didn't necessarily work and you learned something. Because, it is a truism, but I think it gets ignored a little bit too much. And that is that, we don't learn anything from our successes. We learn everything from our mistakes. So I think it's important to approach the celebration with that mindset, James, that you celebrate your wins, whatever they may be, whether it's money, more time to the family. I mean, for me personally, you know, had a family holiday overseas. You know, as a business, we won some awards. More importantly, helped a record number of brokers achieve dream outcomes. Definitely worth celebrating that. But we've also learned things along the way, as you guys will have learned things along the way. So celebrate that as well, for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. And it's funny, when we planned or thought about this episode, we thought, well, we'll just reflect back on the year. And I love doing that. And look, everybody does that, don't they, Ash? That's standard. But we've gone, hang on, I almost like where we've gone with this episode, and that it's more about our listener reflecting back on their wins and their losses or challenges and looking for ways to learn and actually take the time to recognize how far they've come, because nobody does that, right? Everybody gets the end of the year and it's almost just like the year happened and everyone just thinks, what am I going to do next year? And everyone gets all excited. How am I going to make 2024 my best year yet? We're going to probably start to see all of those messages if we haven't already, right? And maybe we'll even put one out. Like it's the same broken record every year. It's going to always be your best year yet. But it's like there's so much power in looking backwards as well as looking forwards. And this is an excellent opportunity to do that. And I love what you said, in that we're looking at everything that happened. We're going to celebrate the wins. We're going to learn from the mistakes, and we're going to actually celebrate and reward ourselves, because maybe we can touch on that, Ash, in that a lot of people don't actually take time to pat themselves on the back and actually reward themselves. It's in our culture, especially in Australia, of talking yourself down and, you know, just keep your head down, bum up, and keep pushing forward. How many times do you think people actually go, you know what? I achieved that. I'm taking the day off. Like, it doesn't happen. How do we sort of get more of our listeners to go, you know what? I did that. I'm not going to put it to luck or chance. I did that. I worked hard. And you know what? I deserve this, you know, a present, a gift to myself, time off, that sort of stuff.
Well, it's got to be intentional and conscious, right, I would say. And you're right. It's one of those cultural differences. And, you know, I love America and I love most Americans. Also, obviously, I'm an Australian and I love Australia. But the difference here is we tend to be humble and we tend to not to be called out for our success. Whereas in America, it's the opposite. You're venerated if you're up on a pedestal telling everybody how fantastic you've been. I played great. I did great. I'm fantastic. I'm so happy with myself. Here in Australia, we don't tend to do that. We tend to be, oh, nah, it was nothing. Oh, you know, it was just a bit of luck. You know, like that's our demeanor. It's part of the knockabout Aussie culture. And I really love that. But you know what? It also can feed into, you know, not quite the right mindset. So I think the way to address that is, yes, to still honour that part of our humble nature, but at the same time, consciously and intentionally recognise and celebrate some wins, rather than just in the back of your mind go, oh, you know, I won that award, but that was nothing. Or I had a record month, that was nothing. Like, actually stop and consciously do something, whether it's, you know, probably beyond the social media post, like take your family out for dinner and have a toast and toast a success. Do something consciously and intentionally about that. So definitely do that. But, and at the same token, and this is one of the things I want to really get across right at this time of the year, is you can celebrate your fails, your challenges, your obstacles. I was having this conversation with one of our amazing members the other day, James, about this very topic, and he has been working with us for a year or so. He's had what I would call a couple of fails with hiring staff, right? Just didn't get the right person and ended up having to move on and find someone else. And I really loved what he said to me the other day. He goes, you know what? I've learned so much. You know, I wouldn't be the same person if I hadn't had to go through that. I've learned so much about myself and how to find the right person for me and my business. And he goes, oh, that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been working with you guys and hadn't have gone through having to deal with that difficulty. So he celebrated it. And I said, round of applause. Fantastic. You can celebrate mistakes. You don't live there. This is the difference, right, James? And listen, you don't live in the past. You don't live in the future. You live in the present. But you can still celebrate, you know, the lessons and successes of the past and then move forward, right? There's nothing wrong with stopping to celebrate pluses and minuses. You generally learn more from the minuses, and you can, whilst at the same token celebrating the pluses. And I think people think that, you know, you need to be one or the other. You're either pessimistic, oh, everything went wrong, or you're super Pollyanna, oh, everything's so beautiful and it's unicorns and chocolates, you know, it'll be right, you know, right? But the reality is you can be both, right? So acknowledge what didn't work and what you learned, and celebrate what did work and the wins that you had, and do it consciously and intentionally, right? And then have some time to yourself. Get that stuff out of your head, have that time off, and then start thinking about the year ahead. And that's probably the last thing I would mention on that. In my experience personally, and with a lot of clients, James, is a lot of people don't do this and end up going straight to their big plans for next year. Fantastic, great. But what actually sits beneath that is they focus on the big plans for next year as an emotional fix for some pain they feel about the year that's just gone, right? So, you know, there's an element of okay to that, but I think really the best thing to do is to celebrate and acknowledge everything, and then have a think about what the next year looks like, without doing it purely as a way to paper over the previous year.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. And listeners, you probably rewind and unpack a lot of what Ash just said, and I'll double down on the being humble and Australian culture, and I call it the humble brag continuum. Ash, there's humble on one side, and then there's bragging, bravado on the other side, and you know, you kind of got to be somewhere in between. If we're too humble, we don't accept success or failure. We, you know, put it to luck or chance, or it's not me. Well, the problem with that, of course, is you're out of control. I mean, you're mentally not accepting that you were in charge of your own results. Obviously, on the other side of it, well, bragging, well, that's probably not the best place to come from either. But I think for me, Ash, what it comes down to for our listeners is accepting that you're responsible for the successes and failures you've had in the year. And so for our Australian broker listeners, the default is to be humble and externalize the successes and also externalize the failures. So if you had a success, it was nothing. It was the team. I got lucky, right place, right time. And if you failed, the default, of course, in Australia is to place blame on someone else. It was my damn blank. This was you know what I mean? Whereas the power in reflecting back over the year and go, I created all of those successes and failures. I'm going to own it, and I'm going to celebrate and reward myself for all of the things that happened, no matter if it was a good year or an average year, right? And that gives you so much power to move forward into the next year. What I'd like to do is, so listeners, go do this exercise, you know, reflect back on the year, hide yourself away, spend 20 minutes, put some pen on paper. We know the power of doing that. Think back to all of the things, you know, think about how you created the wins, think about how you can learn from the failures, don't externalize it, and work out how you're going to celebrate that progress. That's all we'd like you to do. That's your challenge for this week. What I'd like to wrap and put a wrap and a bow on, I guess, on 2023, Ash, is perhaps in the last few minutes we've got for today. I don't know if you've got one thing or three things you'd like to share if you look back at the year as a success or a failure that you want to celebrate.
Yeah, definitely. My show reel would have a few things on it. From a personal level, you know, we love what we do. I love what I do, and you know, I get so much joy out of seeing our members win. Right, so we've had so many of our alumni achieved their ideal business vision, and so many on the way to that. So that's just huge for me at a personal level. Company level, gone from strength to strength, you know, picked up a couple of awards. It's always good to be recognised by your peers. So I'm really stoked with that as a business and as a team. From a client level, 2 or 3 real highlights. You know, we had Rob, who, you know, we worked with for 18 months, nearly 2 years, to build a business that he could take 6 months of, so he could row from Australia to Africa, 8,800 kilometres. So, you know, he became a world record holder, the first human being to achieve solo crossing of the Indian Ocean unassisted, all whilst his business maintained the same level of volume and revenue and momentum that it had as if he was there. Now, so that's massive. And we've had multiple brokers achieve record months. We've had brokers sell their business. We've had brokers win awards. We've got multiple brokers past and present in the top 100. Now, not that it's all about awards, but I know personally all of these people, and they're all transformed people. That's the big win for me, James, is to make more money, win awards, have an amazing business, but do it working less hours, right? Or have less hours that you have to work if you choose to. Some people love working hard, great, as long as it's a choice, right? And you're not compelled to do it. So we've had a record number of brokers achieve that outcome. We've also launched new programs for different sections of the industry too, James. So as far as my highlights reel, that's personal, company, members. The industry's evolved and the industry's professionalising, and probably my last comment would be, you know, very, very bullish about the future. I've been speaking about this all year. I think it's going to be amazing 2024. We can talk about that a bit more next week. But I think the industry has really shifted towards what we've been talking about for several years, and that is focus on building a business. Focus on building a business, right? Focus on building a business, right? So the industry is really moving in that direction as we predicted it would. So as we wind the year up, take that thought forward and take whatever steps you need to build a real business that just happens to do mortgage broking.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's definitely a few pretty cool wins. And I guess to put my wrap and bow on this year in the last minute or so we've got left before we have to run to other meetings. Well, we talk about this a lot, Ash. Like we talked about some of our members. You know, we want to build a business that works with or without us. Our members is what we're striving for. And, you know, this year, I guess, you know, for me, if I put a wrap on a bow of the year, you know, we've achieved a business that works with or without me. You know, we live what we teach. You know, I was able to take 3 months effectively off this year, and not necessarily entirely not doing any work because I was still doing things that I loved, but a lot of time off, and the business just works still without me. We won awards that happened without me. We're helping members without me. So, you know, we practice what we preach, and it's been a pretty cool year, even though it's been a challenging one for everybody. I think, you know, we've slowly coming out the other side and into a very bullish next 12 to 18 months. And I'm very excited for our members in the industry as a whole, and how us, Ash, and as our business doubles down on supporting the industry, making big things happen. So I'm super excited about next year. And I'm really excited about next week to talk about, you know, for our first episode of the year, and talk about predictions and all of those sorts of cool things that we see coming down the pipe. So you got any final words for this Christmas Day before we wrap off and go eat some ham?
I better go and put my Santa suit on. You know, in my local neighbourhood, I think I'm the oldest and I've got the most silvery beard. So I just get, you know, seconded into Santa duty. So I'll go off and, you know, spend my time doing what I love, you know, with family and friends, and overindulging in food and wine. Have a few days off. You know, as you say, we drink our Kool-Aid, we practice what we preach. And, you know, it's very important to invest in your own wellness and mental and physical and spiritual health. So I'll be doing some of that, and particularly looking forward to putting my Nostradamus hat on next week and making some predictions for 2024.
Yeah, can't wait till that. So, listeners, if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your day. Do your thing. If you don't celebrate it, fantastic. Enjoy your day off. Have a great day, wherever you are in the world. And until next episode, next year, I get to say that only once a year. Stay cool. And Ash can't wait to the next one. Listeners, can't wait to see you next week too. So bye from me, and wrap on bow on 2023 for me.
Merry Christmas, wrap on 2023, and yeah, love the year and looking forward to the next one. I'll see you next week, Jones.
Nice one. Everyone, over and out. See you next week.